It was Thanksgiving 2003, a day meant for family and gratitude. The Simmons family gathered in their cozy Pennsylvania home, laughter and warmth filling the air, the aroma of roasted turkey and pumpkin pie wafting through the rooms. Around 7 p.m., just as the family was settling down for dinner, a knock echoed through the house. A knock that changed everything. Tim Simmons, the father, opened the door to find an older woman, her clothes tattered, her smile faint, and her eyes filled with a strange, unsettling glint. She claimed her car had broken down and asked to use the phone, her voice trembling as she spoke. Tim, embodying the holiday spirit, welcomed her inside. Big mistake. The atmosphere shifted immediately. She barely ate, barely spoke, but her presence cast a shadow over the room, a chill that no one could shake off. When the tow truck came, she left abruptly, without a word of thanks, leaving behind her old worn canvas bag. What they found inside was a nightmare. The bag contained disturbing old photographs. The photos weren't of them, but they were eerie and unsettling. Yet from that night on, the Simmons felt like they were being watched. A constant, unnerving sensation. Was she just a lost traveler, or something more sinister? The question haunted them. They sold their home, but even years later, they swear they still feel her gaze. A lingering presence that never truly left. Thanksgiving 2016, suburban California. Lisa and Mark prepared a perfect holiday feast, including Mark's pride and joy. A deep-fried turkey so juicy it will make you. But that joy turned to ashes in seconds. Mark ran back inside to save their dog, Max. But the fire was unforgiving. Mark barely survived and Max didn't make it. As they grieved, neighbors reported something chilling. Shadows in the upstairs windows. Shadows in a house no one was in. To this day, Lisa swears the fire wasn't an accident. Something or someone was waiting, feeding on their tragedy. 1994, rural Kansas. Hannah stepped outside during her family's Thanksgiving dinner to take a call and was never seen again. Wow, another Hannah gone. If you remember from one of my earlier videos, we discussed another issue that happened with another Hannah. I'm starting to question if Hannah is a haunted name, but I'm not naming my future kid Hannah if this keeps up. No sir, but anyway. They found her phone days later in a field. No footprints, no clues. Just one unread text message sent minutes before she vanished. Don't go outside. Who or what sent that warning? Locals whispered about strange lights that night, but Hannah's fate remains a mystery. Some say it wasn't humans who took her, but could that mean she was kidnapped? Very plausible. Let me know what you think in the comments. And while you're at it, subscribe and click the notification bell to get updates on my next videos. Anyway, on with the next story. Thanksgiving 2019. A group of friends rented a remote cabin in Vermont, looking for a peaceful holiday. What they got was anything but peaceful. From the first night, the cabin seemed alive, power flickering, noises in the attic. On Thanksgiving night, one friend woke up screaming. Her arm was covered in deep, claw-like scratches. They fled the cabin, leaving their belongings behind. Weeks later, they discovered the cabin's previous owner vanished decades ago. Is his restless spirit still there, waiting for new prey? Or maybe he's still around, hiding in the shadows. If I were them, I'd get my refund. They didn't put, oh, and with the stay comes a fancy, painful tattoo and possible death, like really. Thanksgiving night, 2001. Rachel and Kyle were driving down a snowy South Dakota highway when they saw him, a man in a thin jacket, walking alone. He smelled faintly of smoke, his eyes vacant. When they turned to ask where to drop him off, the back seat was empty. The man was gone. The next day, Rachel's father told her the local legend, the ghost of a man who died in a house fire years ago, forever wandering on Thanksgiving night, searching for a ride home. Maine, 2017. After Thanksgiving dinner, the family gathered in the living room, the warm glow of the fireplace casting shadows on the walls. Then they noticed it, a figure standing outside the window, a dark silhouette, unmoving. It's probably the neighbor, the father said. They waved it off and continued chatting. But later that night, muddy footprints were found trailing from the backyard to the front door. The police discovered someone had tried to break in, but was scared off by the family's dog. Sometimes the family wonders, what if they hadn't had the dog? What if the intruder had made it inside? Ohio, 2005. Thanksgiving dinner was well underway when the phone rang. The father answered, his smile fading. Her father said. They waved it off and continued chatting. "Who is this?" he asked. The voice on the other end whispered, "I'm watching you." The family laughed it off. It had to be a prank, right? But later that night, as the dishes were being cleaned, the mother froze by the kitchen window. Footprints in the snow, leading from the backyard to the dining room window. The police arrived and confirmed the prints belonged to a known stalker. But here's the chilling part. He was never caught. The family moved shortly after, but the mother still wakes up some nights, convinced she hears footsteps outside. In 2014, a couple was driving late at night, heading to Thanksgiving dinner with family. They stopped at a gas station, and when they pulled out, a car began following them. At first, they thought it was a coincidence, but the car stayed behind, tailing them no matter where they turned. Terrified, they finally pulled into a police station parking lot. The car stopped too. Officers approached the car and found the driver slumped over the wheel, dead. He'd been dead for hours. The car had been moving because his foot was stuck on the accelerator. The couple had been chased by a ghostly driver. In 2020, Sarah in Florida accidentally sent the wrong address on her Thanksgiving invites. It seemed like a harmless mistake until a stranger knocked on her door. He introduced himself as a family friend, and though Sarah felt uneasy, she let him in. After all, it was Thanksgiving. As the night went on, she noticed him acting strangely. His eyes darted around the room, and he stayed silent while others laughed. Then she caught him pocketing silverware. Realizing he was no family friend, she confronted him. He bolted before the police arrived, leaving Sarah and her family shaken. To this day, she double-checks every invitation she sends. It was 2013, and a family in Indiana gathered for Thanksgiving at their secluded farmhouse. The house, surrounded by woods and silence, was the perfect setting for a warm holiday meal. Plates were passed, jokes were shared, and the clatter of silverware filled the room. The aroma of roasted turkey and freshly baked pies filled the air, creating a cozy and inviting atmosphere. But then, the laughter paused. The mother glanced at the table. A plate of mashed potatoes was gone. She looked around. No one had taken it. Then, the breadbasket disappeared, right before their eyes. Confusion spread across the table as everyone looked at each other, trying to make sense of what was happening. They laughed it off as a prank. "Who's the joker?" the father asked. No one confessed, and the family brushed it aside, thinking it was just a harmless trick. They continued their meal, but an uneasy feeling lingered in the air. That was until the youngest son screamed from the hallway. His voice echoed through the house, sending chills down everyone's spine. "I saw someone. They went into the basement." His eyes were wide with fear, and his hands shook as he pointed towards the basement door. The atmosphere turned icy. The father grabbed a flashlight, his hands trembling as he opened the basement door. Dusty steps led into darkness, and the air smelled of damp earth. The family waited in tense silence, their hearts pounding in their chests. Every creak and groan of the old house seemed amplified in the stillness. When the police arrived hours later, they uncovered a horrifying truth. Someone had been living in their cellar. A drifter, they said. He'd been there for weeks, silently watching them prepare for the holiday, watching them eat, watching them laugh. The realization that a stranger had been so close, observing their every move, was deeply unsettling. They never felt safe in their home again. The once warm and inviting farmhouse now felt like a place of fear and uncertainty. The family couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, even after the drifter was taken away. Their sense of security was shattered, and the memory of that Thanksgiving haunted them for years to come. In 2009, in Michigan, another family prepared for Thanksgiving. The centerpiece of the meal, a fried turkey. The fryer was placed carefully in the yard, and everything seemed under control until the grease ignited. The family had been looking forward to a delicious feast, unaware of the impending disaster. In seconds, a small flame grew into an inferno. The fryer exploded, sending a wave of fire onto the deck and into the kitchen. The family screamed as the flames spread, trapping some inside. The once joyous occasion turned into a nightmare as the fire raged on, consuming everything in its path. Neighbors saw the smoke and rushed to help, breaking windows to pull people out. The family barely escaped before the house collapsed into a smoldering ruin. The community's quick response was the only reason everyone survived. But the damage was done. Everyone survived. But the memory of that Thanksgiving, well, it still haunts them. The smell of smoke, the roar of the flames, the moment they realized they'd lost their home and their sense of safety. The scars of that day remain, a constant reminder of how quickly life can change. They learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of deep-frying turkeys, but it came at a great cost. Finally, Pennsylvania, 2001. Thanksgiving dinner ended like any other plates cleared, leftovers stored, and guests heading to bed. But the oven had been left on. By morning, a gas leak caused an explosion that tore through the house. 3 family members lost their lives, and investigators later found that the oven had been recalled years earlier. A small mistake, a forgotten notice, led to unimaginable loss. To this day, the surviving family members urge others to check their appliances. And never assume something so small can't lead to tragedy. Thanksgiving, a time for family, laughter, and gratitude, but for some, it's a time when the shadows grow darker and the uninvited guests come calling. So this year, when you hear a knock or see a shadow move where it shouldn't, ask yourself who or what is joining your celebration. Thank you all for watching. I hope you were entertained. My plan for this week is to upload each day, so stay tuned for more. If there were some mistakes I made or something I can improve on, feel free to tell me down below. I'd love to hear your feedback. It helps me grow and the channel grow better. Let me know some of your horror stories in the comments. And also, if you had a happy Thanksgiving, I can tell you, I had a pregnant food baby, that's for sure. So, if you'll excuse me, I have quite the weight to work off. But seriously, stay safe, and remember, we're always watching.